is really the art and science of turning fiction into fact.
Sometimes kind of real architectural life interferes with intellectual architectural life.
There is no such thing as architecture.
Hello everyone, this is Vikram Prakash and you are listening to Architecture Talk. Each week we have a conversation with a contemporary thinker on issues of architecture and architectural thinking. We're interested in the frontier of architecture, where it is today and where it might be in the future. And advancing the frontier of architectural thinking and disrupting the entire industry is exactly the topic of our conversation today, which I'm having with the design director of a fantastic new company called Katerra. Katerra is looking to completely disrupt the construction and building industry, and they made a big splash when they recently obtained another round of funding to the tune of $860 million. Let's find out what Katerra is all about from its design director, Craig Curtis. Welcome to Architecture Talk, Craig. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
And I'm fascinated by this amazing company that you're part of. And Katerra promises to revolutionize construction and design and the entire way of how we develop, design, and build. Your website says you are bringing, I suppose, the IT world's systems thinking approach to this industry. Mm-hmm. What is the fundamental problem with the industry today that you are trying to address?
Where do I start? I mean, just think about how, well, two things. One, the way that we build has really not changed.
Right.
When you think about it.
Like 100 years. Yeah.
Over 100 years.
Yeah,
you can go back really 200 years and see wood-framed houses that look exactly like they do today.
Why hasn't it changed?
Well, you know, we surmise that the biggest reason is this is more or less a cost-plus industry, that contractors get paid by the material cost and the time that it takes for them to do a building. Architects get paid for however long it takes us to design.
Right.
There's not really that much incentive to revolutionize.
No, but how is that different from other industries?
Well, I think that it's just the time is right. We just haven't gone through it with this industry.
It just hasn't come to us. Yeah.
Right. And it hasn't been disrupted much in the same way that, say, Uber disrupted the taxi industry or Airbnb disrupted the hotel industry. And it's because, you know, it required a Silicon Valley mentality and venture capital in order for someone to come in and do it.
Right.
It wasn't going to come from Turner. Or from SOM.
No.
You know, nobody has the kind of deep pockets that Silicon Valley has in order to invest in what it takes to completely change, you know, a $10 trillion worldwide industry.
All right. So you're thinking of yourself as a sort of Airbnb kind of disruption in the industry.
Absolutely.
All right. So tell me, what is the core disruption that you're bringing about?
To increase quality, efficiency, make things easier for the consumer, for everyone who's involved in this industry.
No, but what's the disruption? I mean, what is the sort of things that we do it now and that you're going to do differently?
Yeah, well, we're trying to take on every aspect of the entire process, end to end. We're looking at everything, from the way materials are acquired to the way things are manufactured, the way they're field assembled, designed, engineered, the technology backbone, everything about the industry we're taking on. That's the Silicon Valley model for disrupting an industry.
I have this imagination in my head that after you, buildings will be built as if they were like putting together a silicon chip, like things are just going to be superbly sourced and just like click together.
Or a phone or a laptop, I think that, or a car, I think that's perfect. That's
Right.
Exactly right. We're
Yeah.
looking at it exactly in the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, Tesla is a great model.
Uh-huh.
You know, that they're leveraging technology in the way that they're assembling cars, much more than any other auto manufacturer in the world.
Right.
And when you go to buy a Tesla, how easy is that?
Yeah, I know.
You go
I know.
online and you pick it out and you know what you're going to pay. You're not going to the manager and he's going to the back room and coming back and haggling about cost and
No.
You know, you do it all online and then you get in the queue and you know when you're going to get it delivered.
And is that exactly, is it like not pre-manufactured? Am I going to order my Model S P100D house from Katerra?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, add whatever features you want. I mean, this is future state, but why wouldn't you be able to do that? I mean, think about what's happening right now in Northern California after those fires. We have entire neighborhoods,
Right.
Coffee Park, there are 3,000 homes in that neighborhood,
Yeah.
5,000 square foot lots,
Yeah,
burned to the ground. It looks like a bomb went off.
it's true.
How long will it take them to rebuild that? If Katerra, if we were at our future state, you could go into a catalog and pick out a house that you wanted exactly the way you wanted it built, and you could pick a Lake Flato model or a Miller Hull model or a Katerra model and add the features, and you would know exactly what it would cost, and you would know exactly when it would go into manufacturing, so that you could go onto the web cab and see the wall panels being manufactured in the factory, and
Sure.
then you would know when that truck would show up on site and the final assembly would occur.
Okay, so I like that. Interesting. You're saying there's the Katerra model, the Miller Hull model, and I suppose I could order a Zaha Hadid model. But two things over there. I mean, one is I can see the revolution in sourcing of materials, standardization of products and processes, and efficiency of delivery and on-site installation. But there's also the question of design, and you're the head of design here at Katerra. So I'm interested in both those questions. First, is the efficiency in sourcing, construction, and assembly, is that simply just streamlining the process, or are you doing some things fundamentally differently?
Well, it's streamlining, but it is also taking this on differently than anyone else has been able to do so far. Like, for example, on the supply chain of materials sourcing.
Yeah.
We have a team of hundreds of global sourcing managers combing the globe for the best deal on contract, going straight to the manufacturing floor.
Right.
For the products that we know we're going to want to use.
I see.
And they have to meet our standard, our sustainability standards, quality standards, workplace standards. So we're making sure that we're not hiring any sweatshops or anything like that.
Right.
But once they pass that test, then they can enter into the Katerra catalog. And taking on entire market sectors like multifamily, student housing, hospitality, and coming together with a supply chain that will work for that.
Yeah.
Nobody right now out there has that.
Right.
And so that's, I guess, streamlining and also a pretty fundamental change.
So you are sourcing still, let's say, from traditional product manufacturers. You're not generating your own materials.
We're doing both.
You're doing both.
Yeah, we absolutely want to control anything that's over, say, 2% of the schedule of values on a project.
Yeah.
We either want to make it ourselves and have it our brand, or we go straight to the manufacturing floor and have it manufactured directly for us.
Okay.
So
So how do you decide between those? When do you decide to make your own, and when do you decide to?
Some of it
source
has to do with the investment and the amount of time it takes to tool up a product.
Right,
So again, in the long play here is much like contract manufacturing for the electronics business. That if you look at the Foxconn model, they
Right.
they make all of the Apple products.
Right.
The Foxconn company owns virtually every component that goes into those products.
Right.
We'll get there someday. In the meantime, maybe a kitchen faucet is a good example.
Okay.
So it will take an investment and some amount of time for us to decide exactly what the ideal Katerra plumbing fixture line looks like. So in the meantime, we have a great bargain with a manufacturer that we can guarantee the lowest price in the world on a product.
Right.
But in the meantime, we're also designing. We've got industrial design people now working on our own fixture line.
Right.
They'll be able to go right to that same manufacturer. These, if you go into a contract manufacturing shop in China, in Shenzhen, and see where these faucets are made, you've got American Standard made in a line right next door to a Moen line. And so what we want is another line right next to that is a Katerra line.
Right, got it. Yes. So you're going to use all this sourcing.
Yeah, and we've seen tremendous efficiency already in some of the products that we have been able to generate on our own. Like we have a lighting company in China.
Okay.
And so we called Dangu, and also an LED fixture company. It's the 5th largest in the world that is now Katerra. So we can take our own LEDs and then we can do our own fixture design, and Dangu can manufacture those fixtures. Now it takes a little while to tool those up, but if we can develop a fixture that we know is going to be repeated thousands of times in an apartment or a hotel or student housing or commercial building, then let's do it, and we'll manufacture it ourselves, and it'll be our own design. It'll be the most efficient way of manufacturing. We guarantee it'll be beautiful because we're controlling that ourselves, and we don't have to buy it from someone else.
Right.
And getting back to your comment about design, that's where this office in Seattle comes in. Right. And when you look at what we're trying to accomplish, we say better, faster, cheaper. Better is first.
Okay.
And what we absolutely want.
Design to be centered.
Designed to be centered.
Okay, but I'll come to design in a minute. I'll come to that. But I want to spend some time first with the sort of, the Tesla equivalent, which also Tesla is beautifully designed. But one thing I'm sort of obviously realizing, this is obvious, but this has to be a play of a certain size and magnitude. It's obviously not a small or even a mid-size play. You've got to be. The only way to make this sort of really work is to think Ikea level. Is this fair?
That is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And I think if people ask me what's the difference between what you're doing and say what they did in Brooklyn with the Skanska prefab project that kind of went south, it ended up in lawsuits and a disaster. Why is this going to work if that didn't? And I think what you just mentioned is the key ingredient, and that is the scale.
Right.
Because if you do it once, and then you're hoping for the phone to ring, and want someone to do another one, that's a pretty big risk.
Yeah.
We had the luxury of a launch customer, the Wolf Company.
I see.
One of the largest family-owned development companies in the U.S., doing nothing but multifamily, 3 generations of experience. They went all in with Katerra. So then we had a pipeline of work that was deep enough that would justify the investment into a factory. Because imagine investing tens of millions of dollars into a factory plus 2 shifts of employees to run all that equipment. You better hope that it's not just one project. Absolutely. Absolutely. So with the Wolf Company going all in, that was really the secret sauce, in my view, that allowed that first investment. Once people have seen now what the Wolf Company is doing, other developers want in on this deal and say, we want to be part of this. So now we can fit them in. We can go build more factories across the country and be able to serve a nationwide portfolio.
Right. Okay. Compare and differentiate what you're doing for me to IKEA. I mean, would you say you're a similar play in the sense that what they do for furniture level, you're doing for the entire building level? Or are you saying you're completely different?
We're completely different from that. I think, what IKEA is doing, I think there are a couple of things about IKEA that are worth maybe making some comparison to. I think that they care a lot about design. It's good design for a low price. Obviously that's what we're trying to do as well. Also, their efficiency in logistics is second to none. The way that they're able to flat pack and make it very, very inexpensive to ship their product anywhere. Yeah. That's something we spend a lot of time on. Okay. And that's another big difference between us and a lot of modular companies. Right. If you look at Girding in Boise, for example, they do lots of prefab hotel rooms. Right. You're essentially shipping a mobile home. You know, there's a lot of air. That's a lot of inefficiency. Very expensive to ship. We're not going down that path at all. Okay. We want to.
So your assembly is always on site.
Super efficient. Logistics is key, and Ikea is really good at that.
Right, of course. Yeah. So in that way, you're similar, but you said fundamentally you're different.
Well, yeah, we're different because we. Well, I imagine they do design work and they do. They're a materials or product supplier. Yeah. But we're a general contractor. Really, that's our main business. You know, we're end-to-end design build. Right. So it's a product that we do the final assembly for you in the field.
Yes, you do the final assembly for us. But what I'm trying to say is, I mean, they have obviously wrung out amazing efficiencies, and as you said, in this whole business, which is generally characterized by artisanal craftsmanship, let's say, and we'll come to that question later. Mm-hmm. Now, let me put this question differently. Is there an impact on the product, which is to say the buildings or the multifamily or the housing? What is the impact? I mean, good design is of course important, but what is the ultimate kind of impact on the product of the process? Or is process simply a matter of, finer efficiency? Or is there do you understand the question I'm asking?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I actually think that there's a fantastic impact on the product. Okay. And this is it, that it's not just about speed and cost. Right. Okay. This is about developing a product, much like the interior of a car or an iPhone. It's something that is completely curated. Every part works together seamlessly. Right now, if you build an apartment, you're ordering your appliances from 3 different manufacturers, and your hardware and your door hardware is different than your cabinet hardware, and your carpet doesn't necessarily match your, you know what I mean, right?
All the subcontractors and all this.
You're pulling from think about the old Sweets catalog. That's right. There are thousands of manufacturers that every architect is out there trying to put the right combination together. Right. Every project is start over and grab all these things from all over, and then the contractor provides substitution requests, and you don't even get what you wanted. Okay, we're going to change all of that. And so if you can imagine a Katerra apartment, that apartment can be put together in multiple ways. Mass customization, if I can use Stephen Kieran and Jim Timberlake's great term when they wrote their book. We see it the same way. You can put together an apartment, hundreds if not thousands of combinations, but we know that any material that you pick out of our catalog is going to go well with another material. Just like if you design the interior of your car, if you're going in and picking out an Audi and they give you all these choices inside, they've vetted that. They know that it's going to work very well together. No one does that in multifamily or even mass-produced student housing or hospitality.
No. So I'm imagining that when I get my mass customized apartment, it's going to fit together like an Audi too. I mean, is everything going to sort of click together, not only be beautifully designed to integrate with each other? Is everything going to be constructed with a much higher degree of precision and exactness? Is that one of the things you're talking about?
That is our goal. Okay. Yes. Where we are today with our manufacturing facilities, we're on our way, but that's the end game. Yeah. Okay. I would say we're making progress there. That's where some things like mass timber why we're so excited about cross-laminated timber is because you can get that accuracy. If you're using 5-axis CNC machines to do all of your fabrication, all of your cutting, then you're within a millimeter or two in the field.
Right.
When those pieces
You've
go
got to
together.
control the process very significantly to be able to do that.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. And the guys that run our company, the vast majority of them are coming from the high-tech world. And they understand the accuracy required to put together a laptop, an iPhone, a printer. You know, it's like on another level completely. They think this is child's play. Right. You know, we're talking about wood studs and plywood and you know,
so
vinyl
this is
windows.
child's play. Is this much easier or is this more difficult?
We'll
I mean,
see.
you said we just said we are on our way. If it's child's play, it should be the easy first thing to do.
Yeah, that's right. It has not been easy, I can tell you that. We're hoping that someday it looks easy, just like it looks easy to put together this iPhone right now.
Yes, I'm sure it's not. Yeah. But the advantage of the iPhone, of course, is it's small, which is to say it can be highly controlled, which is to say, I assume, highly automated and carefully calibrated. You know, they can work in sealed environments and so on and so forth, you know, with Foxconn that you hear about.
Yeah.
And we don't have those kind of luxuries. We are, and you are making big buildings as well, right? I mean, so you're looking at a lot of environmental, contextual, contingent factors. So look, my question, I guess, where I'm taking this is automation on site and assembly an important thing for you in the future or present?
Yeah, we think of the site assembly as really just the final step in an assembly line.
Right.
And I guess the way we look at it is the trucks are like a conveyor belt. It goes, you know, the construction process begins in the factory and it ends with the final assembly in the field.
Okay.
It's all one process.
Got it.
So yes, absolutely more automation in the field is going to be required. You know, even as simple as things that we've already implemented, such as RFID tags on every assembly.
You lost me there. RFID tags? What's that?
Radio frequency. Called
the barcodes and all that.
Essentially a barcode, right?
QR codes and
right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's a QR code. So if you look at a wall panel that's coming out of our factory right now in Phoenix, it's 2x4 framed wall with sheathing, and the windows are in, and you've got electrical installed in the wall and so on. There's a QR code on that wall panel, and the
QR code is for that a specific building part.
Yes, I see. There's a unique QR code for every single wall panel that comes out of the factory.
I see.
And when that goes on the truck, so it tells the guy who's loading it in what order to put it on the truck. So when the truck gets to the site, it's taken off in the order in which it needs to go to site assembly. The guy in the field would have an iPad or has an iPad. This is happening today. This is real. He's able to see that wall panel. He knows exactly where it goes on the site with his construction plans. He also can pull up, if he wants, the BIM model, and so he can see how it fits into the overall configuration of the architectural model. And then if there's an inspector on site, if he has any questions about how this wall was framed, you can pull that information up on the screen and share it there.
All right. But also, are you going to be using machines to assemble the buildings on site?
That's future state for sure. But we've certainly been talking about some ways to make a site assembly much more efficient. Yeah.
So currently no robots on site?
No robots on site yet, no.
Okay. All right. I mean, I imagine these robots on site. I mean, to a certain extent, cranes are kind of like robots on site. And I've always thought, my God, why don't we have a lot more robotification on site? There's a lot of conversation in the academy about 3D printing and how we'll be 3D printing our houses, and you upload the code and then the machine prints the particular thing. I mean, what does Katerra think about 3D printing?
Certainly there are components of a of any building that could be 3D printed and will be in the future.
Right.
Whether it's a light switch or even light fixtures.
Right.
And we're experimenting with 3D printing on things at that scale right now.
Right.
An entire building, I think that's pretty far out there in the future. It's not something we're investing a lot of time and energy into.
Okay.
The thing that Michael Green from Vancouver,
Right.
one of our design consortium partners and an architect who we're doing a fair amount of work with, he's a fan of looking into the 3D printing of wood fiber. Mm-hmm. If you think about CLT and mass timber or LVL,
Sure.
any of these
you can say
engineered
CLT
products,
is a kind of a 3D printing.
yeah, it is sort of, right? And
Yeah.
so why not think about printing wood fiber in a way that gives it the most efficient layout? I mean, that's really interesting technology that we could see advance in the next 10 years.
Okay. So you've talked about CLT as a sort of a good material you want to work with. So I'm interested in sort of rewinding and forwarding that question. Currently, would you say mostly are you using traditional materials? And I think my corollary question is, if CLT is kind of an emergent material, I mean, do you have any thoughts on, you talk about kind of printing wood fibers. Mm-hmm. So where is the kind of trajectory of this? So just talk to me about materials and future materials that you're interested in.
Mm-hmm. Well, why don't I start with CLT, because it's probably the most interesting material that we're investing heavily into.
Okay.
I mean, the other materials, frankly, are fairly traditional. We're investing heavily into smart sourcing and making products ourselves, but there's nothing super revolutionary about anything else we're doing.
Okay.
With CLT, we are investing heavily into that. It's definitely a big part of our future. Uh-huh. And when you think about what we're trying to accomplish and the accuracy that is required in order to accomplish what we're doing, it's no wonder why we have great interest in this material. Okay. Very, very large panels made very efficiently, super accurate.
Right.
Strength to weight ratio is fantastic. It's a sixth of the weight of concrete, yet you can use it pretty much in the same way.
Right.
Much, much faster to fabricate and install. Okay. So it's a really exciting material. I can't even say it's new. Of course, it's been around Europe for 20 years. And
is that right already?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. In fact, KLH really is an abbreviation for cross-laminated timber.
Oh, is that right?
Austria, yeah. So they started. We've got a great relationship with them. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for our manufacturing facility to come online, we've got a good relationship with them, and we'll be buying product from them. But yeah, it's the good news for us in the U.S. I mean, it's unfortunate that it's taken us this long. Yeah. The good news is the first 20 years of pain of getting it to a mature market has been on the back of the Europeans and Australians, New Zealand, Japanese, everyone is pretty much ahead of us. And Canadians ahead of the U.S. But we have a wood demand here that's unlike any other market in the world. So when it does take off here, it's going to be the biggest market.
Well, what do you mean we have a wood demand here?
Well, when you think about the way other countries build, it's pretty rare to see other countries embrace wood construction.
Oh, the way we do here,
right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I understand that. Okay, so but what about research? Do you have a kind of a research wing in Katerra that is still working on possibilities of future materials or things like that, or is that too early for that? Or?
That's one of the most exciting things about working here, honestly.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, there's proof that there's been a lot of data published around how much investment is made into R&D in the design and construction industries. Right. It's around 1%.
Yes, that's right. It's ridiculous.
It is. Yeah. It's terrible.
Yeah.
When you look at any other industry, it pales in comparison. Nobody's really investing into R&D. Yeah. We're barely scraping by, in this industry. Right. So the thing that's so different, and it's, thank God for venture capital. Yeah. We're able to invest in some R&D here that is going to pay off big time. And the only way we're going to be the way we're going to be successful is through the implementation of that R&D that's ongoing right now.
Yeah.
And that goes from the R&D we're doing around CLT, like this seismic work we're doing and acoustic work, to what we're calling a KTES system, which is a Katerra total energy system, which is an appliance much like you'd see a Tesla battery, a power wall, that would sit on the wall of an apartment building and be able to take power from the grid or from PV or from wind or from the battery pack and take it into the unit and be able to modulate that power throughout the day, learn from the behavior of the occupants, and just deliver electricity in a way that no one is able to do.
No one has been done until now.
I mean, our goal would be someday to have all of our Katerra multifamily projects would have no utility bill for the occupant. That would be ideal.
Why did you qualify that multifamily only? Why not all architecture, all building?
You're right. Correct. That's an even better goal. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to me. All right, let's talk a few minutes about this energy and sustainability question.
Yeah.
And you've referred to Tesla 4 times, and of course, they are determined to revolutionize the entire energy question. So tell me about your energy sustainability goals for Katerra. Current or in the future, speculatively, like sustainability and energy is a big issue?
It is a big issue, yeah. And it's a big issue for a number of reasons. One, it's a big part of the total cost of ownership or of rental of a project, whether it's a commercial building or a home or rental property.
All right.
It's a big part of that cost. So if we can deliver it more efficiently, that's savings to the consumer, which means it's savings to us.
Yeah.
So of course there's that, but the company also has a real commitment to environmental responsibility. We're trying to be very smart about how we are using materials and what kind of damage we might be causing to the planet through CO2 production and other things like that. So it resonates with us both on a efficiency and a cost basis, quality product to deliver to our customers, but also frankly because it's the right thing to do.
Okay. Good. Well, this might be a good time to take a little break. We are talking to Craig Curtis. He's the Director of Design here at Katerra, and we'll be right back. Hello everyone, we hope you're enjoying listening to today's episode of Architecture Talk. If you're a regular listener, please do subscribe to our mailing list by going to our website, ArchitectureTalk.org. And of course, please don't forget to rate us on iTunes. Okay, let's get back to the conversation. Hello, this is Vikram Prakash and you are listening to Architecture Talk, and we are talking to Craig Curtis, and we are trying to unravel the mysteries of this company called Katerra. And Craig, during the break, you were starting to tell me about how Katerra was launched.
Yeah, I love telling this story because I think it says so much. It really describes the breadth of the problem, and I think it'll make some sense. So, the legend goes like this: that our founder, Michael Marks. First, I'll give you a little background on Michael. So, he became friends with a gentleman named Fritz Wolf, who was the CEO of the Wolf Company at the time. They became close friends, and Michael, being the very curious entrepreneur, started asking Fritz questions about his business, the real estate business, multifamily business. And the story goes that they were in Seattle up on Capitol Hill, and there were 2 projects that the Wolf Company was doing, both under construction, both within eyesight of one another. And so Michael said, well, Fritz, you must be getting a great deal on windows and drywall and sinks and faucets because you've got these projects right here. You can aggregate demand, right? And Fritz said, oh no, that's not how this business works at all.
Right.
See, we have 2 different general contractors, and they each have their own subcontractors who have their own suppliers. And if they were designed by different people with different engineers, and I have no idea what kind of doors or windows we're getting in either project, but I can guarantee they're coming from different people and different sources. And he described this process, and Michael just turned to him and said, well, that's
what's wrong with you?
Dumbest thing I've ever heard. What a crazy way to run an industry. So that piqued Michael's curiosity about first supply chain. Like, why can't you aggregate demand? So Katerra really launched as a company to go out and become a supply chain company to provide the Wolf Company with the best materials out there. We quickly found, by canvassing all over Asia, that we could save tremendous amount of money on materials. But then we'd be relying on suppliers to then, or subcontractors to take our materials and then provide them to a slew of different general contractors, and quickly became apparent that that was not going to work. We had to be the builder. And so then we became a general construction company. And then the last thing to come along was, if we're going to build these buildings with our own materials, we should control the design.
Sure.
And that's when the design company was launched in Seattle in January of 2016.
I see. And how did you get into this company?
Well, there's a funny story. So when I was at Miller Hull, I was there for 30 years or so. And in the 90s, I hired a young guy right out of school, came out of Washington State University, by the name of Peter Wolf. Just happens to be one of the brothers of the Wolf Company. So he came to work for us, and he really... he was instrumental in setting up our technology. AutoCAD was just coming in vogue, and Peter came out with a great interest in technology. So Peter put together a computer system, AutoCAD system for Miller Hull. We became very good friends. He worked for us for quite a few years, and then he got pulled by his brothers back into the development world. So he went back to work for his dad with his brothers at the Wolf Company, doing multifamily development. And I think he always missed just being an architect. He's a very, very good architect. So he was at a point with the Wolf Company where he was starting to think maybe he would try something else. And at the same time, I was kind of thinking the same thing, that I'm, 30 years with one company, that's a pretty good run. I wouldn't mind trying something else. Pete and I were friends. We started talking about doing something together. And then Katerra was launched. And Peter heard about it, of course, because of his tie with Wolf. So he started telling me about this company, and I was like, this sounds interesting. I might be willing to give it a try. He was trying to bring me over to see if I would help him with it. So I started part-time, thinking I could juggle a U.S. embassy or two at Miller Hull and do this Katerra thing with Pete. And I just got sucked into it. And within 6 months, it was like, there's no way this is a part-time job. But I was also thinking, this, we're really onto something here. This has potential to be something groundbreaking and really big.
It can be.
And to be part of it would be really exciting. Miller Hull, there's no place better to work as an architect.
It's a great firm.
It's a fantastic firm. And I have nothing but great things to say about the years I had working with Bob and Dave and Norm. I mean, it was fantastic. But here was an opportunity to maybe get in on something at the ground level that is going to be so beneficial to this industry. We've all beat our head against the wall for years on how to deliver projects with contractors breathing down our necks and never knowing how much they're going to cost. Imagine if you have, as an architect, a BIM model that has all of the cost information and schedule embedded into that. You have that. You don't have to go to a contractor for that information. You're sitting across a table with a client saying, well, if you add a couple more 2-bedroom units here, there's the price there. I'll sign on the dotted line tomorrow. That would be remarkable,
that
right?
Would be revolutionary.
That's a game changer.
That is a game
That's what
changer.
we're trying to do. And it's really empowering the architect to take to be able to have insight, have transparency into the cost of construction, the cost of materials, the logistics of getting materials from point A to point B, labor rates in every market. All of that information is available.
Right.
Why shouldn't we have it?
Right.
And that's what we're
Absolutely.
trying to do.
And I think that's such a nice way to put it, because it's about really re-empowering the architect as somebody who can be in active control of the process.
That's right.
Rather than think of this as a way of sort of completely selling the everything to the assembly process and sourcing systems. But
Yeah, to
really,
me-
it's a way to rethink the power and potential of design and
Yeah.
the role of the architect in the process.
That is one of the most exciting things about being here. It's not about the fact that we're going to have beautiful products you can pick out of
Sure.
a catalog and put it together in any way. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
But the way that we're redefining the process in which architects are working with clients, and having control of all of the costs and logistics and a full understanding of what that means to a client, that's huge. I mean,
I think that's powerful for me to think that, because there's all this head scratching and heartache around the role of the architect in the industry and thinking about it in the future, when this could be potentially one of the ways and one can really rethink the thing. So let's talk design. I teach design. You are an architect. You're well schooled in the great design traditions of our city and this area and region. So what does that mean? What do you mean by we should control design? I mean, and you've mentioned several times we have got to have good design. Things got to look beautiful. Now, we teach design as a philosophical, human purpose in the world discipline. Like, it's a relationship to environment, land, place, geography, and so on. Right? And so talk to me about Katerra's design philosophy.
Yeah, we certainly would not want to inhibit that level of thought and research into projects that architects bring. I mean, that's been my career, almost 30 years at Miller Hall.
Yeah.
And was driven into me as part of my DNA. And we've got a great office full of very talented designer architects here that share the same thought, the same mission.
So how do you integrate this into the Katerra process?
Well, maybe going back to the idea, again, going back to the Kieran Timberlake book, Mass Customization.
Right.
That we want to revolutionize the way that assemblies are fabricated off-site and are put together in the field.
Yeah.
But we don't want to limit the aesthetic or the level of thought and care that would go into the design of a building. The final assembly would be using components or assemblies that would have some efficiency to them.
Okay.
I think an example might be the kitchens for multifamily. There are certain ways that you can design an efficient kitchen within a one-bedroom apartment.
Right.
Whether it's 350 square foot up to 500 square foot or something like that. But you would have kitchen configurations that would fit.
Right.
We should have multiple configurations for those kitchens that would work in those situations.
Right.
That are beautiful, great materials, fantastic hardware, appliances, all completely curated down to the LED on every appliance would match perfectly. And then have that available to an architect to be able to choose from that.
So if I was a small architecture firm, and I'm very proud of my design sensibility or whatever it is, could I work with the Katerra sourcing and assembly systems?
I can definitely see that in the future. Currently we have such a backlog of work that we're servicing our existing clients.
Right.
But I would hope that someday we'd be able to provide, if we can provide a higher quality product at less cost, we should make that available to anyone.
Right.
And so, yes, we would be able to provide that to any architect.
I mean, I can imagine a future, where there are a lot of people doing the customization, where the Katerra revolution is in the mass part, where there's sort of like, if you work with the Katerra assembly and materials, one is to have a series of options that you can put in the kitchen. But I imagine that if I want to make my multifamily project using these efficiencies, then I would have to learn how this system works while I'm designing. Yes?
Yes.
Currently, you are doing all the designing yourself as well, right?
Well, we're working with a lot of partner architects right now. In fact, almost every project we have on the boards is with a partner architect.
What do you mean partner architect?
For example, we're doing a couple of projects with the Runberg group in Seattle, where they are the design architect, and they're doing the vast majority of the production on these buildings. But we're providing them with the tools in order to provide the Katerra materials, the Katerra kitchens, the baths. We are working with our own construction team and manufacturing team to develop details around the wall assemblies that will be done on the factory floor.
Okay.
So we're providing the technical backup and the materials supply chain and things like that.
I see.
And they're providing the design and the production.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have partner architects.
Absolutely. And that's, that is really, to me, the fundamental difference between manufacturing an apartment building and manufacturing an iPhone.
Yeah.
Because an apartment building has an entitlement process and a jurisdiction and a building code, a local building code, and cultural and climate characteristics of a site that have to be taken into account.
Yes, of course.
So that's where we have to rely on good partner architects across the country so that we're doing what's right for that particular region. We can get it through entitlement, and we can get it, and we're responding to all of those influences on a project that any architect would want to incorporate.
I see. That's very interesting, because that's like a fascinating model. So when you work with a partner architect, how does it work? Does that architect sort of put up a basic design and in terms of its local context, and then you make it work with the Katerra system, or do you supply a guidelines of possibilities, and then within them they prepare a sort of a specific articulation of a range of possibilities? Or is it just...
Yeah, there's a little of both, but one of the more exciting examples we have right now, if we could break away from multifamily for a minute and talk about some of the other market sectors that I think are really exciting. We're working on a commercial office building with Michael Green right now. This is a project that's going up in Spokane, and it's a 6-story CLT project, essentially a spec office building that will be leased out to some higher ed institutions. It's like a think tank type of a building.
Okay.
But what's interesting about working with Michael Green on this is he is the lead designer, he and his firm.
Yeah.
We're providing the overall management, and we're providing the link to the Katerra systems.
Right.
And what's cool is, of course, we've got our CLT factory that is in design and under construction right now simultaneously. So our mass timber engineers are working with Michael and his team and his structural engineer to determine what's the most efficient way to produce CLT out of our particular factory in a way that will serve this building the most efficient way.
Okay.
And we found that because our press is 12 by 60, that if we can make panels that are 30 feet in length, then we're maximizing the output capacity of our press, which drives the cost of the product down because it's the most efficient manufacturing process. So if we're laying up lamellas at a full 60 foot in length, then that's beneficial to both. So a 30-foot bay was quickly arrived at as the most efficient structural system for this building. Then it's 12 feet wide, but 12 feet is a difficult panel width in order to ship because it requires cars front and back of the trucks that are carrying the panels. So if we go to 10 feet, it's a little better. So if you cut a foot off of each end of that panel, for example, in this case, it's likely that we'll use glue lams instead of CLT, but in the future, what this led to is a discussion of, can we do ribbed panels that include a 1 foot rib on either side of that 10 foot wide CLT panel that's 30 feet long. That's a very, very efficient panel, efficient coming out of our press and efficient structurally. So is that an element that we can then use as a model to develop a building system around for commercial office? It's that level of thinking that we're having with our partners like Michael Green and other good architects that's really exciting. And that's going to drive the cost of mass timber down to a point where if we can break the mold and develop a CLT system that is less expensive than TJIs and chipboard, then it's game over because it's much more efficient, it's more beautiful, it's more sustainable. Definitely cheaper than concrete or steel. We're going to see an incredible market for this material.
Okay. All right. Say I was running a design studio here at the University of Washington on institutional building downtown Seattle, a new museum. And I told my students, well, let's imagine we are working with the Katerra system. What would be the things that I would have to tell the students that, here are sort of specific things you'll have to take into consideration?
It's absolutely looking at things through a fresh set of eyes.
Maybe we'll try something at University of Washington.
I would love it.
Well, it's been great talking to you, Craig. Thanks for taking time out for Architecture Talk.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vikram. It's been a pleasure.
What would be a way to think about this?
I think that would be a really interesting exercise. I think the only restrictions we would put on them is we would say, here are the manufacturing capabilities out of the Katerra factories. Here's what the CLT factory can produce, and it'll be the biggest press in North America. So there's a lot of flexibility there. Here's what a panelization factory for Katerra might look like with either light gauge metal framing or wood studs, whatever you'd like. And here are the limitations that we have within the equipment of our factory. 12 foot high maximum walls. This would be the length. These, this is how they might be laid up. There's a lot of flexibility with
those systems. There's a lot of leeway still there. So that would be the set of questions of limitations. But if there was also the question of maximization, like if the brief for the students was, got to use this assembly system, but your brief is, what can you really imagine this can do? What would be the sort of speculations you would help put forward in that realm?
I think that would be a fantastic exercise to try. Just to see what kind of results you'd get from students.
And students are uninhibited.
So. We've talked about doing a design competition with single family, utilizing the technology that we have, and opening it up and just seeing what kind of results we would possibly get. It's like, was it GE that did the open competition and ended up with a proposal from some student from Afghanistan that came up with the best solution? Why not throw it out there to the world and say, here are the parameters. tell us what you would do if you had this equipment at your fingertips.
Yes. I think you should do something like that.
I think it would be fun.
I think it would be fun. Maybe we'll try something at University of Washington.
I would love it.
Well, it's been great talking to you, Craig. Thanks for taking time out for Architecture Talk.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vikram. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much for listening to Architecture Talk. This is Vikram Prakash. I am the host of the show, and our show's producer is Elizabeth Umbenhauer. If you like the show, please do remember to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. And also take a moment and rate us on iTunes. Thank you very much, and see you next time.